It's a mid-afternoon, it's a Saturday, February 20th, 2021, and I am in a small bar in Studio City. I got a buddy there who is consoling me, which means buying me drinks, because I'm having one of the worst days of my life. I've just learned that my dreams of a career in space have basically been shattered. I had a phone in my pocket that was blowing up from this article that just came out in Wired magazine a couple days before, talking about this unknown musician who had been, with no formal scientific training, by the way, who had somehow been working with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, to capture sounds from the planet Mars with the Perseverance rover. And this was a really big deal for a couple of reasons. First of all, this had never been done before. Scientists have been trying to do this for decades. And they'd flown a number of missions. None of them had succeeded yet in capturing sound. The second reason was because Perseverance had just landed 2 days before this. Now, that unknown musician, as you can imagine, was me. And what only I and a few other people knew at this point at JPL was what our microphone had actually recorded was absolutely nothing, not a sound. And it was devastating. I have loved music and space all my life. I don't really remember when I fell in love with music, probably before I could speak, but I do remember when I fell in love with space. I was about 5 years old. We had this amazing kindergarten teacher. That's me in the corner there. And he brought an orrery into class one day, which is a little physical model of the solar system that moves. And it just immediately captured my imagination. This made sense to me. I was like, I get this. And I remember seeing Jupiter around that time through a really nice telescope. It was about the size of a marble. You could see the clouds a little bit. And it blew my mind. I was hooked. But even as a young kid, I couldn't see a career. Well, not even a career. I couldn't see a life in space, astronomy, I don't know. I didn't see a path forward that made sense there. But I stuck with music, and all through school, I got kicked out of one college before I even got there. That's a different story. But yeah. But I ended up at a wonderful community college up north in the Bay Area, transferred to UC Berkeley, got a degree in music. Eventually made my way down to Los Angeles, and I've been making music all my life, like what you just heard when I walked out here today. That was our newest single, actually. Thank you. One person liked it. So I've been living a life of music, but about 15 years ago, something kind of extraordinary happened. And I don't know where this came from, but I started realizing something was missing in my life. I didn't know what it was at first, but it was growing, it was eating at me. I discovered it was space, it was science knocking on the door. Hey, remember us? And so I was determined to figure this out. I had to go after this. So I started subscribing to news articles, magazines, online, anything about space I could find. And I actually even started emailing some of the scientists behind these articles. And I would say, hey, I read your article. Have you thought about this? And they would occasionally even respond. And they'd say, yes, we have thought about that. Thank you very much. All right. So I said, well, here's my music. I hope you like it. And they said, yes, we did, actually. That actually happened once. It was wonderful. And I started going to conferences, space conferences, here in the LA area. It's a really good place for it, actually. But I was really, really struggling at first. It wasn't even that it was imposter syndrome. I was an imposter. I had no business at these places. And I remember not just the day, I remember the moment this changed. I was at this one conference in Pasadena, and I'm walking all around all day, and it's the end of the day, and I'm just absolutely, I'm just like feeling defeated. And these guys are breaking down a booth over here. I was like, do you guys mind if I just crash here for a second? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then one of these guys, I think just to be nice, he's kind of like, what are you doing here? And I don't know if you know what this feels like. I'm sure some of you do. In this moment, I just gave up. I stopped pretending, and I was like, you know what, man? I'm a musician. I don't even know what I'm doing here. And before I could finish that sentence, this guy's like, no kidding, I play guitar. My buddy's a bass player. Yeah, we had a band together. And instantly, well, this conversation led back around into space, but more importantly, I instantly realized that what I thought was keeping me out of this whole world, being an outsider, was actually my ticket in. So from that moment on, every conversation I would meet somebody, what do you do? I'm a musician. I'm interested in what you do. And this gave me the confidence to go out and talk to people. So now I'm talking to everybody. You can't get rid of me. I'm showing up to all these things, and for better or for worse. And one day, I go to an open house that JPL is hosting, and there's this guy there. His name's Joseph. He's showing off the rover systems for Curiosity, Perseverance. He's actually one of the folks that drives the rovers on Mars, and so we get to talking. He's a really nice guy, and I decide, you know what? I'm going to make this guy be my friend. So we start meeting for drinks, whatever, just casually, every couple months, sharing ideas. How's life on Earth? How's life on Mars? I had to remind him one time there was an election coming up, because literally all his problems were on another planet. This is a true story. And so we're sharing ideas, and at one time, one of my ideas resonated with him. We were talking about the Perseverance rover and how it was going to land, and this, I don't know if you're familiar, the sky crane that carries this thing down, and these hydrogen thrusters blasting out, and just this whole very energetic, cycle. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could hear all this? I think that'd be cool. And, has anybody done this before? And he was intrigued by this idea. So I went back. I started doing a lot of homework, a lot of research, really. And a couple months later, he came back from JPL one day. He's like, and what he had found was, and by the way, this was totally independent of our conversation. NASA came up with this on their own. They had decided not only were they once again interested in this idea of capturing sound from Mars, but they were going to fly not one, but 2 microphones on the Perseverance rover. So you can imagine, in this moment, everything changed. Now, all of a sudden, there's this sense of urgency. Everything I've been chasing after these past few years, space, sound, together, are you kidding me? This is it. Never going to get this chance again. So I went for it. I started doing a lot of homework. And I eventually drafted a letter, an email to NASA. My buddy helped me out with it. And the next thing I knew, and really, I'd say against all odds, I now had a contract as an independent consultant, working, working to capture the sounds of Mars with NASA's Perseverance rover, while really working to inform the design and operations and testing procedures of a microphone, one of the microphones that was going to fly on Perseverance, which was scheduled to land on February 18th, 2021. Wow. So, we're back in the bar at the beginning, right? Perseverance had just landed 2 days before this. Everything went amazing. The whole landing, the sky crane, all of it, picture perfect. And actually, the microphone that we had did turn on. It did record, but what I found out over the next few days was that what it had actually captured was like digital black, basically about, I think, 6.5 minutes of like binary garbage, unrecoverable. And so like I said, this article had come out. I'm hearing from people I haven't seen since kindergarten. Or no, not kindergarten. Well, actually, yeah. High school for sure, right? Like, oh my gosh, congratulations. And I knew this thing hadn't worked. I knew we had failed, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody. And I'm just dying inside. It was just the worst. So while I'm suffering, very quickly losing hope in the corner of this bar, on that Saturday, our supervisor, Dave, who you saw in that photo earlier, Dave Gruhl at NASA, was determined to get this thing to work. And so he convinced them to try one more time while Perseverance was just sitting there on the surface and record again before a big NASA press conference that was just 2 days away, where the world would find out what we had and hadn't captured. So they rebooted, they tried again, and this time it worked. Turn it off, turn it on again. And so if you can imagine the range of emotions I had this day, from absolute ultimate despair to now, like, what? Send this to me immediately. Huddled in the corner of this noisy bar, cradling my cell phone, this is what I got to hear for the very first time. So I know that doesn't sound like much. It's about 17 seconds of a soft puff of Martian wind pressing against this small diaphragm on our microphone. But that sound had traveled about 127 million miles from the surface of a planet that we had never heard before. And I don't have to tell you, I was crying in the corner of that bar. Kind of getting me out thinking about it. So hang on. All right, so. Since then, this microphone has continued to record, and I think this is the really amazing part. I just talked to a buddy of mine at JPL the other day. That microphone, as of like last week, has recorded over 26 hours of sound on the surface of Mars, which is particularly insane because that was a commercial off-the-shelf component with very little modification. That thing shouldn't have lasted 5 minutes on another planet, let alone 5 years we're going on now. And so I'm going to share one more sound with you. This is one of my favorites. It's one of the early recordings. We're going to do a little audience participation here since you guys are pretty awake. I can feel it. I'm going to play this sound, and if you can guess what this is, just yell it out. Hope I don't regret saying this. And let's see if anybody can guess this. There we go. Anybody? That's my favorite right there. All right, I'm pretty sure somebody got it. That is, in fact, the sound of Perseverance roving on the surface of Mars. A little bit slower than this, but that's what it sounds like. So, hearing these sounds really brought me back to this whole impossible journey, right? The idea that as a musician, I could somehow get a legitimate seat at the table with these scientists, engineers, these people I've respected so much. And really, I think what that brought me back to, and always brings me back to, is something that I discovered when I was a kid in kindergarten, that my love for space and science. And I think maybe some of you are asking a question. The answer is yes, I did go back. I found my kindergarten teacher again. So, this is that's Greg North. He's a good man. We're good friends. I told him this story. Another good cry. There's a lot of crying in this story. And so just a quick message to all you teachers out there. If you're ever wondering if you made an impact, just give it a couple decades. So what has followed for me has been a career in space and developing, career in space technology, a second career, and developing ideas like ExoCam. And this is an idea that came from that exact same conversation that day about the microphone back in 2016, I think that was. This is a remotely ejectable camera to record rockets landing on other worlds, on the moon, Mars, and from a remote first-person perspective, which is something that we've never seen before. And we've had a lot of fun so far, working with a company called Honeybee Robotics, which are amazing. They're here near JPL. And I'm proud to say, as of this moment, we've raised almost $1 million in grant funding from NASA to support this idea. So we're not there yet, but it's coming. So I've met more scientists and engineers in this line of work. And in fact, some of them are friends of mine that are here tonight, over there, I think. And these are people that, in many cases, could be making a lot more money doing something else. They're brilliant, brilliant folks. but they're working in space and they're doing it because they love it. I think it's an honorable profession. I think that's something we can all agree on. And in many cases, this is something that I've discovered folks fell in love with when they were kids. And so now my mission, I guess, is to help create these moments of magic, especially for young people through space and sound and music all together sometimes, and try and create moments that will inspire young people especially to be explorers and adventurers, because you never know when one video, one sight, one image, one sound could change the entire trajectory of a life. I know that for a fact. And the last thing I will say is that, and this is important, everything through this whole arc of a story that I've shared with you today absolutely scared the heck out of me when it happened. So much so that now when I get this scared feeling when I'm approaching a new idea, a new proposal, and I feel my stomach knotting up, I get excited. And I want you to remember that, especially folks watching, the young folks. It's good to be scared. It's good to get excited because it means you're almost certainly doing something that's worthwhile, and you might even be doing something that nobody's ever done before. And I will tell you, I'll tell you guys, I know everybody's said this a million times before, but hearing the word in the world of space or music, or probably a lot of other things, hearing the word no over and over and over and over again is not nearly as memorable as hearing even one person say yes. You know what? Go for it. So, before I go, I have one more thing that's very special I'd like to share with you all. I've started recording rocket launches with friends of mine from JPL and Skywalker Sound up north. And this is the first launch we ever recorded together. So up at Vandenberg Space Force Base, a couple hours from here. One of the last flights of the Delta IV Heavy. And we recorded this not because anybody paid us, not because we didn't have a grant. Nobody even asked us to do this. By the way, actually, that gentleman on the far left there is Ben Burt. He is the sound designer of Star Wars. And Benny, his son, is the one who recorded and mixed this recording. So you can imagine how much I was nerding out that day. We didn't do this for a grant. We didn't do it for money. Nobody asked us to do this. We did it because it was fun, because we could find an opportunity to do this, and deep down inside, this reminds us of something we all discovered when we were 5 years old, when we were kids, and that is that space is awesome. Thank you very much.